Sports reporter Hloni Mthimkhulu joining us now to talk about, I suppose, what next for Caster Semenya. Hloni, good morning once again. And, you know, the ASA releasing its statement saying that it will also consider an appeal. How does that actually work? Do we know the process now for if they have to take this to the Swiss Federal Tribunal?
Okay, so we don't really know the process, but we know that they are requesting that 165-page judgment that the Court of Arbitration for Sport said they had written. So what the different legal teams have said is that they'll request that and they'll go through that before deciding on what to do next, or if they will take up that challenge, which I presume they will do. Then we'll see what happens then. I mean, this whole process has gone on for much longer than we had thought as a whole process. So I presume that that will also go on for a bit longer then. And meanwhile, the athletic season is starting, or the outdoor season is starting, or the international outdoor season is starting, and that means that for now, from the 8th of May, things will have to be on hold for Caster in terms of her 800 and the 1500 meters.
Unless she decides that she's going to start taking this medication today,
which
only gives her a week. So how does that work? And I mean, we were chatting about this the last hour when we spoke. Is how does that work? You say that you need to take this medication for 6 months to lower for those levels to possibly be acceptable for you to participate. But they say it's okay if she takes it for a week. It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. So we'll see how that will all play out. I mean, there's still so many questions around how the IAAF have gone up, about this. Whatever their motivation for doing this, there are still so many inconsistencies that have been pointed out in terms of the decisions that they've made, and how they've come to this point, and why they're basing the performance advantage for women just on testosterone. And if that's the case, then what about all the other advantages that other athletes have over the rest of us? You know,
or what about men? What about men whose testosterone levels might be higher than others?
Exactly. And how did they come to this 5 nanomoles per liter that they say? And how are athletes going to stick to that 5 nanomoles per liter? How are you going to ensure that everyone is within that level that you are now forcing to take this hormone therapy to decrease those levels? I mean, it's such a variable thing.
And I mean, since we waited for this decision by the Court of Arbitration, there was lots of talk about what the side effects would be, what might happen. So where are they in the process of determining? Say, for example, Caster says, okay, fine, I'm going to take this for a week so that I can participate next week. Where are we on
they have a way? I mean, we've spoken to an endocrinologist, and there's no way of knowing for sure how one person is going to respond to the hormone therapy versus another. So I suppose it's a wait and see game for them. But they've reiterated over and over again, actually, that their findings show, that they're not concerned. That's not a concern really for them, and that they are very sure that this is the way to go for them. So I suppose that they are really confident that it won't affect an athlete that much. But I mean, even the ethics of doing something like that. And I mean, we saw a few years ago when there were issues around, or there were regulations around testosterone levels of female athletes. It did affect just on a basic level, just your times. But what it did to you, Dr. Bana was talking about how it will affect you in terms of socially, what that's going to do to your body, what that's going to do.
You're playing with hormones, and I mean, as women, we understand hormones better than anybody.
Like, can you imagine?
Even if it's just for a few days a month.
Can you imagine what that will do?
What's that going to do?
Permanently.
On purpose do that. No. So where is Caster now in terms of, have we heard about whether she, will, I mean, we understand that there's an event that happens tomorrow, is it?
Yes, the Diamond League does start tomorrow.
Is she allowed to be part of that?
She is allowed to be part of that.
Without having taken this medication.
Okay, but from next week, for the rest of the Diamond League meets, there's another Diamond League meet in Shanghai on the 18th of May. And for those ones, and for the rest of the season, and for the upcoming World Champs, where she's the defending champion in the 800 meters, then she will have to be on a hormone replacement of some sort.
So what happens now to all her past wins? What happens to medals that she's won, records that she has set?
There's no, so at the moment, there's been talk about that, or questions about that should all those results stand. But the IAAF hasn't said anything about cancelling out her records from the past 10 years. And besides, I think the IAAF wouldn't do that because there are still so many questions around records that were set in the 80s from athletes that were rumored or not rumored to have doped up at that point. So, I mean, to want to deal with Caster's records from the last 10 years and not deal with
a whole other can.
Yeah, so that won't happen. I think just to add that the one interesting thing is there's a Madeline Pape who ran with Caster in 2009. She's an Australian former a middle distance runner for Australia, and she at the time when the whole storm broke out, she was very opposed to Caster and she had so many questions, but she has said over the years she's now has a PhD, a sociology PhD, and she says she's learned over the years actually that how this was handled is wrong, and what her thoughts were on the issue initially were wrong and were ignorant. And she says that in the sport there is so much of that now, where other female athletes think that testosterone is the hormone or the measure of advantage, and she's learned that actually that isn't the case. So I think there is some misinformation or some ignorance on the issue, even from the sporting community itself.
Okay, so 30 days, the next 30 days, we should know what happens or what Caster has decided, and the ASA. Thank you very much for that, Hloni Mthimkhulu. Now.